Welcome to the Made by Google podcast, where we meet the people who work on the Google products you love. Here's your host, Rashid Finj.
Today, we're talking about Lyria 3 and Lyria 3 Pro, our amazing music generation models that you can find in many places, including the Gemini app. To learn more, we're talking to Senior Product Manager Joel Jawili.
This is the Made by Google podcast.
Joel, you've worked in technology for a long time, but now you get to combine it with music. How different is that from previous experiences working in technology?
I love that question to get started. It's interesting. I think it's maybe the first or second time that I'm working on a project that has a direct overlap between what I love outside of work and my passion at work, which is obviously product management and building great products. And so I would say maybe not the first time, but it's definitely first or second, which is, really exciting.
Amazing. So if you hadn't worked in tech, but maybe you became a musician instead, like what's the instrument we would have known you for?
I love that. Are you familiar with Carlos Santana?
Of course, yes.
Well, his song, Maria, Maria, I'm not going to sing it here because I don't want to embarrass myself. But that song inspired me when I was really young. And so I've always wanted to learn the guitar. I've tried learning the guitar over the last 3 or so years. Still really bad at it. But one day, hopefully, that's the instrument that I want to be known for.
Amazing. So today we're talking about Lyria 3 and the recently launched Lyria 3 Pro. How would you describe what Lyria is for people who've never heard of it?
So Lyria 3 is essentially our music generation model. Lyria 3 is the latest iteration of it. And it's essentially a tool that we have built to allow users to be creative. And that creative expression can take many forms. Can take forms such as sending a message to a friend that's personalized. It could also be potentially like a small business that wants to build a campaign with music that is hyper customized to their need. YouTube creators can leverage this model as well to customize some of the videos that they might be creating. So the backbone here is creative expression. But again, that takes many forms depending on your use case and who you kind of are.
I think the one that I saw the most since Lyria 3 launched was sort of the personalized song you create for someone else. I'm sure you've seen those around as well. Was there any kind of song that was particularly impressive, something you saw out in the wild maybe?
Yes, I mean, there's a bunch. And as a team, obviously, we take a lot of pride in what we create. And so we spend a lot of time trying to find these really cool examples. We've seen, you can't even imagine, we've seen people throwing terms of services into Lyria and creating really cool 30-second songs. We've seen people taking meeting notes and dumping them in and converting that into music, which is also why we're really excited now, which we'll obviously dive into a little bit further, but into the Lyria Pro model.
Longer meeting notes. I got it. Yeah.
Exactly. The most impactful example personally that I saw was going back to your point around personal interactions and personal sharing, was someone who reached out to me on X and basically was thanking us for creating this tool. And what I really was struck by was that the reason why this person was so grateful was that they had a friend who they had grown distant from, so they were estranged. And for years and years, this person wanted to reconnect, but it just didn't have the right words. So when we launched the 30-second model, they created a song that essentially verbalized all the feelings that they had that they couldn't speak for themselves. And so they sent that song to their friend and they end up reconnecting.
So if we back up a little and go back to the drawing board, quite literally, then who sits around that? Are these only AI engineers? Are there musicians? Do you need to know anything about music in order to build a model like Lyria 3?
It's a great question. I love the question because oftentimes I think there's a wall between these labs, big tech, and then the rest of the world, the people who are actually using these models, using these tools. Ultimately, behind all these features or products that we launch are real people like myself, people like yourself. And if you can imagine in the real world or outside, the walls that we work in, there's a spectrum of people who listen to music or who use music. And it can range anywhere from someone who is just a casual, doesn't have, an understanding of music theory or science, all the way through to people who are musically trained, musicians, artists. And then there's someone somewhere in the middle, like myself, who really loves music, kind of has an understanding of music, but isn't necessarily like musically trained, right? And so the team is structured in that exact same way. You have research who are hyper technical, engineers obviously as well. But then you have a whole suite of other roles who also contribute, who might not be as technical as myself or engineering or research. And so it's really a suite of people. And the really cool thing about this specific project is that you need all of it. Going back to the quote that I love, I'm from Africa, specifically born in Congo, raised in South Africa. And we always say it takes a village, right? And it really does take a village for products like this. And so you really need a combination of people who really understand music and people who may not, because ultimately you want to build for all of these different types of users.
So if I were to roam the halls of, where you are right now, maybe also at Google DeepMind, while working on Lyria, am I hearing music like all the time? Because people are testing the model maybe every day. I guess there's probably no one who generated as much tracks as you probably during that time.
For sure. I can tell you for sure that I generate way too many. Sometimes I have this fear of, them is just walking up right behind me and telling me to slow it down a little bit because we need the compute. But ultimately, I think the whole team, we have a chat for the team, obviously, where we kind of coordinate different products or conversations or technical conversations. And essentially all day long, we're sending each other music, whether it's inside jokes or just tests that we've run or really cool use cases that we've come across. So I would say just generally the team is constantly kind of playing with the tool, yeah.
And of course, it gets better over time while building it. Do you remember the first time where you thought, hey, this is actually pretty great?
In terms of the one example that I think struck me the most as we were building this, where I realized, oh, this could be something. Obviously, there has been, music generation out there. But specifically for Lyria, the thing that affected me was I had this really nostalgic moment. I was playing with the tool, and then for some odd reason, I was thinking about, life back home when I was much younger. And I entered a prompt asking for a song from Kinshasa, which is the city that I was born in. And that's all I entered. And the model took that, interpreted it, and returned a song with Lingala, which is the native tongue. It was speaking it fluently. It also understood the nuances of the music in Kinshasa. There's a couple of things that we do where we stop the music, we talk through the song, and then the music comes back. So all these little nuances that are hyper-specific to Kinshasa, the model was able to spit that out, which I thought was a really, really cool moment, nostalgic, and it really hit me as to, oh, wow, like this is something that could really impact people at large.
And I presume these are maybe tracks you share back home as well.
100%. As a matter of fact, in the original blog post for the 30-second clips, one of the songs in there was a song that I created for my mother, which was a memory of the food she used to cook around plantain, and it's my favorite food. I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm going to start salivating.
Oh mama, I remember those sweet days. Nothing but your love and your sweet embrace. Those golden plantains that used to fry always brought a smile and a twinkle to my eye. Sweet like plantain.
But I created this song for the launch that I actually sent to my mom as kind of like a token of appreciation. So I thought that was a really cool moment.
Cool. I wondered where that example came from, by the way, when reading the blog post. But now I know it was actually...
There we go.
Wonderful. So, we have Lyria 3, 30 seconds. Now we have Lyria 3 Pro, which does 3-minute songs. It just sounds a bit like, well, we just sort of make it longer and then we're done. But maybe it's not that easy.
Definitely. It's not that easy. And I would say it's for sure a little bit more nuanced than that. So the model not only gives you longer tracks, but it also gives you slight improvement in musical quality, a slight improvement in lyrical quality as well. It also has a better understanding of just structural awareness. So this means that you can be very specific about, do you want an intro? How long do you want that intro to be? Do you want a bridge? Do you want a chorus or a verse? You can really break down your song into very, very, very specific details. One of the things that I was playing around with again this week was really trying to get hyper specific around, like, hey, I want male vocals here. And then at the 46 second, I want it to transition over to women vocals and then transition back into both of the singers singing together.
Oh, wow.
And you can really get into those details with the Pro model, which is something that I'm really, really excited about.
That is really cool. So prompting becomes very important then if you want to get this right in the Gemini app, for example. Let's talk about lyrics for a second, because that to me also, like the generating lyrics seems like a whole other science maybe than generating music. Like, talk to me about how you get both right.
Yes, and this is something that we're continuously improving as well, and we hope to make a ton of improvements over the next year. But ultimately, I think from the outside looking in, these look like two identical work streams, right? They're just one. But internally, we kind of look at it separately. As an example, if you have someone who wants lyrics for a hip hop track, and then someone who wants lyrics for a country track, it kind of sounds like, okay, sure, you just like write a bunch of lyrics and then you return that to the user. But actually, each of these genres have very specific nuances that we need to understand. And so there's a lot of work that has to go into extracting the details of each of these genres and then making sure that the lyrics are representative of that genre.
And how much of a role does Gemini play in this? Because Gemini itself, of course, knows a lot about the world. It can search the web, maybe. Does that play a role in generating lyrics as well?
Yeah, so obviously one of the beautiful things about Gemini, it's multimodal, right? And so it also has an amazing, as you mentioned, awareness of the world. And so as you're training these models, going back to the example that I mentioned around entering a song in the style of Kinshasa and the model being able to kind of like extract that and understand all the nuances, that's kind of like the beauty of these models, having an understanding of the world at large. And then in terms of lyrics, actually one of the tips that I usually give to people is to use Gemini to write your lyrics. Obviously, Lyria can just do that out of the box, but you can get more specific by just leveraging the power of Gemini and its creativity to iterate over your lyrics before you actually feed that into Lyria, which is kind of like another approach to writing your own lyrics.
Right. So you'd use Gemini to actually create the lyrics up front, and that whole text you would feed into Lyria a little bit later.
Exactly. And that's specifically for maybe the more advanced creators or creators who have something specific in mind. You don't necessarily have to go that route, but Gemini tends to be a really awesome thought partner. And so leveraging that power to get to a better song, I think is something that I think most people should try.
And since you mentioned multimodality, I think it's also pretty awesome that instead of only saying, write a song about this and this topic, I could actually upload a picture of something or someone or a pet maybe, and I'll get a song about that. Who came up with that idea? It sounds pretty brilliant.
Yeah, again, this is all just native functionality within our models. You can come in, upload an image to your point, or even a file, and have the model being able to interpret what's in that image and then write a song or lyrics that are tailored to that image. Another part of this is the cover itself. Right. So obviously Nano Banana has been this amazing success, and so we wanted to leverage some of that to create better covers. In the initial release, we kind of would just give you whatever cover we thought was accurate or best representative of the song that you've chosen. In this second release with the Pro model, we've also added some functionality that users were asking for, which is customization of the actual cover. So you can upload an image either of yourself or a couple of images of your friends, and using the power of Nano Banana will actually combine those images into a cover that is specialized for the song that you're asking for.
That's amazing. I need to try that for sure. Joel, there are also some people worried about generating music. Like, are we becoming the painter instead of the paintbrush just with AI and generative music? Just wondering where you stand on that when you hear that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we try to be cautious of. One of the cool things about Lyria 3 is that it was developed in tandem with artists. And so that for us is kind of, trying to show people that we really do care. We're not just developing this in a vacuum. The other part of this, again, which is something that Demis has spoken about more so on like the video model side, but it's the same thing for music, right? We do realize and recognize that it's something that is scary for some and really empowering for others. And so trying to make sure that we find, that balance and speak to both sides and build that into our products, I think is something that is really, really critical to us. Ultimately, again, going back to who we're building this for, we're building for everyone. And so we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard as we build these models. We're not building these things to replace. We're mostly building these things to empower.
So talking about the responsibility side of things, we have a technology called Synth ID, which also plays a role in Lyria. Could you explain to us what Synth ID is for people who have never heard of it, and then how that applies to what Lyria 3 and Lyria 3 Pro generate?
So one of the things to bear in mind as we move deeper and deeper into this era of AI and media generation is obviously being responsible with what we create. There's a whole narrative out there around like AI slop, and we want to make sure that we're not just contributing to that. So one of the ways that we do that is that we enable users to upload any sort of media, whether it's a video, an image, or a song. And with Synth ID, which is a technology that we embed in all of our media artifacts, Gemini will actually analyze the upload and then let you know whether or not this was created with one of our tools. And we hope that that's one way to kind of keep people safe out there and away from things like AI slop or misinformation by enabling them to not get fooled by something that might not necessarily be from like an actual human.
So personally, I use Lyria mostly in the Gemini app, but as you alluded to earlier, it's also in different places. So where else can we find Lyria 3 and Lyria 3 Pro?
Yeah, good question. So same here. I use it mostly in the Gemini app, but we have it now across a suite of products across Google. The other areas where you can find this is in the AI Studio. If you're a developer, you can leverage the Lyria 3 API there. YouTube Dream Track is another one for YouTube creators where they can kind of customize the music in their content by leveraging Lyria 3. We also have, a couple of weeks we made the announcement that the producer AI team joined Google Labs, and so you can find Lyria 3 Pro there as well.
So for anyone who wants to get the most out of Lyria, like you already mentioned, it could help to maybe produce the lyrics first together with Gemini and then go to the model. What other kind of prompting tips do you have to get the most out of Lyria?
Yeah, so I would say there's 4 key things. I'll break them down one by one. I'll list them and then I'll break them down one by one. So the first one is genre. The second one you want to add is your tempo. Then the instruments, and then the actual types of vocals. So what I mean by that is, one, the genre. So you want to lead with a specific genre, right? Everybody has different taste. You want to make sure that you convey that to the actual model. Do you want metal? Do you want rap? Do you want indie folk? Second one, as I mentioned, is tempo and the rhythm. Do you want a beat song? Do you want something that's danceable? Going back to my Carlos Santana example, do you want a driving beat or like something slow, like a slow ballad? The third one is instruments. Again, having instruments in your music changes the vibe quite a bit. And so you want to be very conscious of the types of instruments that you want in your song. So, do you want a saxophone? Do you want a fuzzy guitar? Do you want a distorted bass line? All these instruments are really critical to kind of bring your vision to light. And then the fourth one that I mentioned was vocals. Obviously, very, very important. Specifying a gender. So do you want, a specific voice texture, like a hairy female soprano, or a deep male baritone, or maybe a raspy rocker? Again, all of these four components, along with the lyrics, which I know you had asked about earlier, kind of come together to deliver something that is hyper specific and hyper personalized to your needs. And so having as many of these elements in your prompt as possible just makes for just a better delivery.
And I noticed you can also say you want an instrumental song, right? If that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a great call out. So all of these details are obviously for most people who, want vocals, but you can omit the vocals and then just ask for an instrumental as well. So for some nice background music. So if you want to study, as an example, and you're a student,
right,
maybe you want some lo-fi hip hop, you can totally do that as well.
Joel, what's in the future of Lyria? Like, where do we go from here? What kind of goals and dreams do you have for the model?
Going back to our conversation earlier around how we want to develop this with the community, right? So we put something out, we get feedback, we learn, we iterate, and it gets hopefully better and better over time. One of the things that we want to do is continue to raise the floor, but also raise the ceiling. And what that essentially means in non, product management speak is for users who come into the app and may not necessarily have like a really concrete idea of the type of song that they want, but maybe directionally they want a rap song, right? But they might not necessarily know if they want, a saxophone in there or a guitar in the background. And they may not have an idea of the type of vocals that they want. For those types of users, we want to make sure that we still deliver something that is of really, really high quality. And so again, we've rolled out, Lyria 3 and then Lyria 3 Pro. But my hope is that in a year from now, the quality is, drastically better and that it keeps improving over time. So that, again, as a user, when you come in, even if you underdefine your prompt, we're still delivering something that's like really, really high quality. So that's on like one end of the spectrum. And then on the far end of the spectrum, for users who are musically trained, or maybe you're, a really musically tuned YouTube creator, we want to give those people the tools to be able to hyper customize the actual track. And so again, we want to raise the floor for people who may not be necessarily musically trained, but we also want to give people who are musically trained the ability to go further than what they can do today, and just be able to deliver songs that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do outside of AI music generation.
Now, Joel, for my final question, I know Lyria 3 is pretty great at sort of mixing genres. Have you tried mixing like two things that maybe on paper don't make any sense, but they sounded great when you actually heard them for the first time?
Absolutely. Again, going back to the example that I had around like Kinshasa, I have 100% made mixes like music from Kinshasa mixed with country music. We even hear, internally in our group chat, people doing things like yodeling with rap. You can't even imagine the breadth of things that you can really do. And that's right. Like that's the power of these models, is to enable people to be really creative and do things that they otherwise would never be able to do. So going back to the vision of like where we want to go, it's really that. It's enabling people to create the types of things that are hyper personalized to their need or their desires that would otherwise be really, really hard to do in kind of like the natural world.
I'm going to write that down, yodeling with rap music. I know what I'm doing tonight. and I don't mean I'm doing that. I'm just prompting that. Don't worry about that. Joel, thank you so much for joining the Made by Google podcast. And good luck with whatever comes next after Lyria 3 Pro. And hope to see you again.
Yeah, appreciate it. And look forward to sharing more improvements over the coming months and years to come.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Made by Google podcast. Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts to be the first to listen.